Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. I'm Dimitra Janakoulias, and I'm a state coordinator for Braver Angels Oregon. If you're new to Braver Angels, we're a grassroots organization dedicated to restoring civic health and reducing partisan political conflict. We facilitate conversations between people who have different worldviews and beliefs. We do not seek to change people's minds about the issues. We do engage people we disagree with and respect our differences. Today, I'm talking with Miles Brady, a mediator in Oregon City and Clackamas County. I met Miles more than a year ago through a Braver Angels colleague, and we've had several conversations about people, life, politics, the world. Each time we talk, I walk away with a new learning or a new insight. So, Miles, I'm really appreciative of our conversations and thanks so much for being here today.
Well, I'm appreciative as well. I learned a lot from you too, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Apart from being a professional mediator, what else is an important part of your life?
Well, in a past life, I was a firearms instructor and gunsmith, and that is a very big part of who I am. Still very much a shooter, uh, and that kind of led me to be a mediator. The conflict trainings that I did as a firearms instructor led me into the world of conflict management. And so, one of my titles is mediator, but I also have a firm where I call it conflict consulting. And that's a very big part of my life as well, where I just consult on the general topic of conflict and how to manage it and move through it.
And it's interesting that your gunsmithing and firearms instruction like inform your conflict work.
It was about part of the body of my work, uh, teaching people de-escalation first before you engage in violence. Like that should be your last resort before you reach for, any means of self-defense is, do you really need this conflict? Do you really need this fight? In the world of self-defense, it's actually not that easy to shoot people in America. That's a very big misconception without getting sued and or arrested. And so one of my biggest aspects of my teachings was teaching people to de-escalate things.
I want to start off this particular conversation by going back to your upbringing. When you were growing up, what do you think shaped you the most in becoming the person that you are today?
That would be my family. My family's originally from Mississippi, and we migrated up to Illinois, but our roots are Southern and go back generations. And so, yeah, my grandfather stepped in when my dad wasn't there, which was always. uh, and he was a military man. Chicago, he was a gangster turned military man turned pastor. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, so his story is incredible. But there's that piece that influenced me on the how to be a man side because he was very precise, and if we were talking he was teaching me something that was a very big influence. And he's a pastor, so faith is another big thing that he passed on to me. And then my mother, who's an incredible woman, also a consultant, she
Wow.
gave me the opposite piece. She fostered the sensitivity that was in me. And then sisters, I have five younger sisters, and that was a challenge growing up. I have a younger brother too. He's only about 8 months younger than me. Uh, and so my siblings, we grew up in a house where it was just always someone, and we always had someone to be with. We weren't all raised together at the same time, but there were times where we were. I grew up the oldest. I'm the oldest of all of them. And so it made me the protector,
Mm.
guardian, and the teacher. And that's something that I still carry to this day. I still very much carry that protector, guardian role.
When you said that, being Southern was also a piece of a shaping factor in your life, like what does that mean exactly, having these Southern roots?
Being Southern is just a different culture. And when I moved to the West, when I moved to Oregon, just even down to small things like personal space. I remember being in the grocery store the first few weeks I got here and how close people would stand to me. And it made me uneasy because it was just like, why? Like personal space is a big thing in the South. You don't just walk up to a stranger and get all in their personal space. Um, and the communication, there's a very genuine, gentle, but direct way we communicate that I struggle with here in Oregon because there's a whole lot of passivity in terms of how people communicate. The cultural difference that I noticed, there was a lot less family connection that I ran into in the West.
You identify as being conservative.
Mm-hmm.
What does being conservative mean to you?
That's a question I've been redefining a lot over the last 5 years. Uh, and it's one of those things where I use the word conservative because it helps people understand the base of my ideals very quickly. Because when I moved to Oregon, everybody assumed that I was leftist and liberal. I remember being at a bar one night. Some people I knew behind me were having a conversation, and somebody just said, "Well, Miles is a liberal. Ask him." And I just remember turning around like, "Do you know another black guy?" That's not me, but it's a common assumption with black people that they're liberal or they're leftist, and that's just often very much not the case. And so for me, it's a term that I use to help people understand kind of the base of who like my political alignment. But in the past 5 years, I've kind of coined a term nomadic centrist, but
No.
I even had to edit that with conservative nomadic centrist because a lot of my political beliefs lean to the right when it comes to military, fiscally very conservative. I'm pro-American. I love my country, and so that tends to align a lot with the right. But there are things that I do lean left on. I'm not a woman, so I don't think I have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body. I have my views on certain things like abortion and whatnot, but I'm not the type to go around and push my ideals and my beliefs on someone because I think they're right. So yeah, it's one of those terms where it just helps me identify myself to people quicker.
You're black and you're
Mm-hmm.
conservative, but the assumption was that because you're black, you must be liberal. And do you think in other areas, let's say back in Mississippi, that that same kind of intertwining would be made where, oh, Miles, you're black, you must be liberal. Would that happen there or not?
I don't think so. Like I went to college in Virginia, and when I was there, that kind of assumption just wasn't made because you
Mm,
just didn't know the person. And so anybody that I met, especially other black people, it was just like, let me figure out who this person is. But it was a new thing for me being in Oregon where there was just this assumption based on my physical identity that that person now knew what was inside. And I was actually very frustrated because then I had to kind of like correct them. And there was this shock that came with it of just like, well, and it led to a lot of really frustrating conversations of, well, how could you be a conservative if you're black? And then they go on about, all their assumptions and beliefs about, what the conservative mindset is. How could I agree with any of it? It's very frustrating.
right. So for you, being black and being conservative are kind of separate aspects of your identity.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not blind to the things that happen on either side of the aisle. And that's why, as a black man in America, my existence has to be nuanced, especially in the political realm. I don't just get to pick one side and stand firmly in it. There's problematic stuff on either side, and I'm aware of it all.
Hmm.
But the ideals that I hold and the things that are important to me make me lean more right. And so that's where I stand. And wherever I stand, be it politically, faith wise, whatever, I stand in it confidently. So I'm not shaken when people make that assumption, but I am annoyed by it. So, like I said, there are things that I agree with on the conservative side more so than on the left, but there are things on the left that I agree with. But there's also things on the left that absolutely frustrate me, that don't resonate with me at all and keep me from using the term or defining myself as a leftist.
What would be some examples of that?
Yeah, there is, and this again, I'm not trying to generalize, it's just a lot of the experience that I have, which is I don't need to be saved or helped because I'm Black. And yeah, I'm aware of, systemic racism and power imbalances in this country, but that doesn't mean that I need handouts or help immediately or help at all. It doesn't mean that I need doesn't mean I need anything from you. Maybe I just want to connect with you as a human, and that's it. But a lot of times, I get the I guess you would call it white saviorism, where it's like, let me help you with this and that because you're Black and life is hard for you. It's just like, I've been Black 38 years. I'm doing pretty good. Like, I got it figured out. Maybe we can just like get a cup of coffee and be human together. And this is something that I learned being in the gun world, where it was when I walked into a room, like, yeah, they saw that I was Black, but it was also like, are you good at what you do? There was no like, how can I help you? It was just like, who are you and why are you here?
No accommodation made.
Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah. And a lot of people find that to be a negative thing. I didn't because, again, I grew up with a grandfather that was military, and my godfather was military as well. And it was just something I was used to, something that there was just like, yeah, you're a man. Like you build your skill set. You don't just take help from anyone. You don't expect anything from anyone. You go into a room and you stand in your own authority, you stand in your own skill set, you stand in there as yourself as a man, and that's that.
Would you call it a like a level playing field that, race doesn't matter, ethnicity doesn't matter. It's more about like who are you individually and what can you do individually, no matter what your, demographic identity is.
Yeah, well, and that's the base of part of my beliefs. Like I'm not blind at all to the fact that this country has a very unique relationship with racism, and it's a country that was built by slaves. Like, you can't deny that. And it's a modern country that was built by slaves, which makes racism in America very unique compared to other countries where 200 years ago there were still slaves here. 200 years ago in most other modern countries, that wasn't the thing. So to pretend like race doesn't matter in these countries is not something I do. But when I'm moving along in my everyday life, I don't have time or energy or desire to walk around constantly thinking about racism. I got
Mm.
stuff to do. and but I am aware of it. So that awareness lets me know like when I'm in a place and it's not safe, or when I'm in a situation and it's occurring, then I can identify it, then I can act on it, react to it. Uh, but for the most part, yeah, when I meet some Black, white, whatever, show me the character of who you are. And that's what I'm going to go for.
It's an interesting distinction that you just made, which is, in your everyday life, you have your ways of living and managing your world on an
Mm-hmm.
everyday basis, which is may not be the same as big picture thinking or understanding. And so it's like there are different tactics and of dealing with life and the world. It's not one and the same. The on the ground everyday level is not the same as the big picture level, is what I'm hearing.
It is, yeah. And there's a high level of compartmentalization that goes on in my head around things. And there is a compartment that understands racism and all the things that come with it. It's just not one that I let inundate other compartments because it's just not what I choose to do. It's a very taxing thing to have to constantly think about race and racism. I will inevitably run into it again. And that's just not something that I want to focus on. When I do run into it, I know how to deal with it.
Okay, so you've just opened up a bunch of questions for me.
Mhm.
I'm going to try to break it down into like one question at a time. So this, I think, what you're saying goes back to some other conversations we've had before where you've said
Mhm.
that you think safety is a personal responsibility
Yeah.
and that you believe that you are responsible for your own safety wherever you
Mhm.
go. So you don't expect the system to make things safe for you.
Mhm.
So, what would you say to a white person who, thinks, well, Miles, but you're black and there is systemic racism and systemic injustice. And so, of course, you don't feel safe. And you're going to be a target potentially because you're the oppressed. So we need to make things safe for everybody. Like, what's your response to that?
It's a little too pie in the sky for me. This is a dangerous world, and there are threats everywhere, and most of those threats are camouflaged. And so I prepare myself to be able to address any threat, be it driven by race or need or whatever it is. That's my mindset. And so, yes, I agree, especially when you're talking about systems in this country. Yeah, there are things that need to be fixed and there are things that need to be repaired, but that's just life. Like there's threats from all different angles that I just want to be aware of all of them. And there
Mhm.
are threats that are specific to me. Like I said, being black, there are people that would do harm to me because I'm black, but that goes for many other races and women and gay people and trans. And so there's threats everywhere. And then it's not just that. It's for everyone. This is a dangerous world we live in, and it's a dangerous time we live in. And so when it comes to the question you asked before of like, what would I say to someone who's saying that to me? I believe in being prepared for as much as possible. And but what I won't do is live in fear. And I think a lot of what happens around racism is out of fear. A lot of what happens around in life is out of fear, and that's just not something that I choose to live in fear. So I acknowledge and I'm aware that there are threats out there, but I'm not afraid of them. If it comes at me, then I deal with it. But other than that, all I can do is choose to move through my life, do the things that make me happy, and just understand the world that I live
So you're saying, life is inherently dangerous and
in.
unsafe. Like anywhere, everywhere. That's like the nature of existence.
Exactly.
What do you recommend for people who are too afraid to talk to people that they believe are, prejudiced or bigoted or racist? Because, they think their personal safety is on the line, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
a public setting, it's on the line and they don't want to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that you mingle with people who sometimes are branded as being racist, and
Yeah.
you're not afraid and you're fine with that. So
Yeah.
you speak to that a little more.
Yeah. So when it comes to me interacting with people that I either perceive or know to be racist of some kind, like there's still a person behind all that. And I'll use my sense of humor, I'll use my de-escalation skills, I'll use my conflict management skills and my just genuine charming personality that naturally occurs in me uh, to just address them as a human. And the biggest thing that I do is I ask questions. There's a book by Edgar Schein called The Humble Inquiry, where he talks about just and the subtitle of the book is The Gentle Art of Asking, Not Telling. I'm not about to go up to someone that I think is, racist or problematic in any way and start telling them things or telling myself things about them before I know them. I'm going to go ask. And there is inherent danger in that, but there's also no moving forward without that. Like how am I gonna move forward in life if I'm not letting myself learn about everything, including the people that might be a threat to me? So I when I do engage in that though, I keep myself aware of the fact that this person could actually turn out to be a problem or a threat. In college, I went to a bachelor party with a buddy of mine. And we get to this bachelor party. I don't know anybody there. My buddy's the only guy. It's just a group of white folks in Southern California. And I get there, and I'm the only black guy there. And we're having a good time. We're having drinks and laughing. And my buddy gets this weird look on his face as he's looking towards the door. And I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, dude, we got to go. I'm sorry. I don't. And I turn around, and there are these two overtly dressed skinheads. And when I say overtly, I mean bomber jacket, shaved head, camo pants, with patches that are clearly, white supremacist patches on the jacket. And he was like, let's go. Do you want to go? Well, I didn't know they were going to be here. I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, relax. We're good. And I make eye contact with them. They make eye contact with me. And the guy who's running the parties, he invited a woman who invited her boyfriend. And her boyfriend was one of the skinheads. And he comes up to me. He says, "I'm sorry, I didn't invite them." They're now everybody at the party is doing their best to make sure I know that they're not racist and skinheads. They're just like, "We no. I have black friends." I love that line. I got black friends, and so I'm just like, "It's fine. They're not bothering me." They're on the other side of the room right now. Now I'm also a story collector and an adrenaline junkie, and I understood that it could go back. And I make my way over to the drink table and I pour myself a drink, saddle up right next to the shorter of the two. And I look at him and I just, what's going on? And he kind of looked at me and he kind of looked at me funny. He was just like, good. Didn't really ask me anything back. And, we're just kind of standing there and there's this like really clear, awkward tension there from him. And I just was like, hey, man, can I ask you something? And he was like, yeah. I was like, this outfit, this like uniform, is this like every day for you? Do you like it? And he was like, well, yeah, it lets people know what I'm about. And I was like, oh, what are you about? And he kind of looked at me really just like, I was like, no, I'm serious. I was like, what are you about? And he goes on to tell me the organization, what they do and what they believe. I was like, oh, for real? Okay. Why? Like, what made you want to join that? And when I asked him that, he just kind of was taken aback and he was like, I got beat up a lot as a kid. And I didn't really have brothers or sisters or family. And I wanted to belong. And when I met these people, they made me feel like I belong.
He
Yeah.
said that.
He said that. And he was like, they made me feel like I belong. And I was like, I get that. And he was like, what do you mean you get it? I was like, I understand that. Everybody wants to belong. Yeah, it just started with me asking questions because I wasn't afraid. And they were banking on fear and they didn't get fear.
So asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
you said early on, recognizing that they're people, that they're human,
Yeah.
and putting that humanity in front of whatever beliefs that they have. If I don't have that courage, let's say I'm you and I see them, but I just don't have the courage to
Mm-hmm.
talk to them, ask them questions, disarm them. What can I do if I don't have that level of courage?
If you're talking about the best thing you could do for yourself is just continue to enjoy yourself and not be affected by their presence. If you can't engage with them, don't let their presence engage you because now they've ruined your night just by being there and being themselves. How does that help you?
One
Mm-hmm.
question that I have for you about racism. So, do you
Mm-hmm.
think racism is a white phenomenon? And what's the best way to deal with it? I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. It's not a white phenomenon. It like racism goes back and goes out as far as humans do. It's a tribalistic thing to, segregate ourselves based on race or religion or whatever else it is. Like I said before, though, racism in America is a very unique thing because this country was founded on racism, on slavery. And so racism in America looks very different than it does in other places. But I don't think it's a white phenomenon to look at someone based on their appearance and
Mhm.
not like them or judge them or not like them and judge them or harm them even. Uh, that's a human thing. And I think we tend to lump it on white people. And I'm not excusing the white folks that are racist and saying like, oh, it's not just you. Like, no, it's you and it's a very big problem in America in the white community. Prejudice plus power is what really makes racism. And so not acknowledging that in this country is not an effective way to deal with it. But saying that it's a white phenomenon, also not the right way to deal with
What is a good way to deal with it?
it. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so shifting our conversation, you mentioned that you're sometimes not comfortable in some left-wing circles.
Mm-hmm,
And then you alluded to some possible reasons, like I
mm-hmm.
guess like savior complex, assumptions made about you. But can you say a little bit more about, what makes you uncomfortable in some of those circles?
Yeah. When I walk into a group of people, I don't want to be accepted because I'm black. I don't want people to walk up to me and be friendly to me because I'm black. Like that is just beyond frustrating. And it's something that I've experienced a lot. I won't say that it's just on the left because I've had very conservative white guys that have walked up to me at the bar and like, you look like someone I need to know. Let me buy you a drink. And then proceed to ask me a bunch of questions about black culture that I'm just like, or tell me about their black friend in college, or meet women who are just like, I dated a black guy before. I don't want to be chosen out of if you look at a group of 50 people and you see, it's I'm the only black one. I don't want you to pick me because I'm black. Like, yes, that makes me stand out a little bit more. It might make you more curious, but I don't want it to be the reason that you have interest in me. And that is something that I experience often. I'm a human first. I'm a man first. Like, get to know that part of me, and then you can ask me questions about my culture. Then we can engage on that level.
So diving a little bit more into polarization, like
Mm-hmm,
political polarization. Let's say I want to get to know somebody who has really different values and beliefs than I
mm-hmm,
do, or worldview than I do. And then I try to go and interact with that person, but they seem suspicious, or they rebuff me. They don't really want to talk.
mm-hmm.
So, how make an inroad? How would I build trust? Like what, so I guess A, what do you think is blocking, that interaction? And B, how do you make an inroad and start building a place of trust?
I think a big block that occurs in that kind of situation is expectation. Just because you walk up to someone and give them words that are nice doesn't mean they got to get back to you. That doesn't mean that, your politeness, your initial politeness and your initial kindness means anything to them. Like, I don't ever assume that someone is just going to be kind to me because I was kind to them. And there's a big expectation people tend to have when they approach someone about how they should react to them. Well, I was nice to him, he wasn't nice to me, or I was, engaging them. Well, maybe they have trust issues. Maybe they have a reason not to just trust anybody that walks up to them. Maybe that's not the kind of person. Maybe they don't like talking to strangers. There's a whole litany of reasons that somebody might not want to engage with you. And taking that expectation off the table immediately is one thing that's going to help you move forward and making a connection like that because you're going in genuine. Like, I understand you may not like me, you may not agree with me, you may not want to talk to me, you may brush me off completely. But I'm gonna come at you with me being genuinely me. And that's what I go at when I engage with anybody. Is I don't know how you're going to, I don't particularly care how you're going to react to me. This is what I'm giving you to react to, though. And that's just genuinely being who I am, and starting with that. Uh, so yeah, removing the expectation that you might initially put on someone. I think that's the best way to get someone to engage. It's just you make the offer to them to engage with you on whatever terms they want and
Mm.
whatever terms they choose.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people feel it. They feel the energy
Mm-hmm.
behind our presence, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you come at someone with a mask on, of course that's something most humans can identify with. And if somebody came up to you in a literal mask, trying to be with polite words and kindness, that's going to throw you off a little bit or a lot of bit. So when someone comes up to you with a, emotional, spiritual mask, it's also going to throw you off because you just sense there's just something off about this person.
Yeah. So the expectation acts like a mask.
Mm-hmm.
It obscures any possibility of pure intention, a pure intention of having no intention. Because I'm thinking about this as it applies to politics and how it's very easy for us to go start a conversation with somebody because we think, oh, I want to like learn about them. I want to understand where they're coming from. But if we go with this expectation that maybe we're going to change their minds or, we're going to help them see the light or point out that they're wrong, right? I think these are often very insidious expectations that we have that we're not always aware of.
Yeah. And that goes back to the asking versus telling. I bet I can change this person's mind on this, or I can teach them something as opposed to just engaging with them. But yeah, it's something that turns me off when I meet someone and I can kind of feel them digging for information about me as opposed to just being there and being themselves. I can, this is a big turnoff when like I said, when I feel someone digging for information in me as if they're looking for something to oppose. What do you have on you that I might not?
Share yourself and don't expect anything of others. Okay, last question. Our polarization is ongoing.
Yeah.
And it's very deep
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just political anymore. It's
Yeah.
also cultural. We have these very deep cultural divides right now. It's psychological. It's even physical because a lot of people are very physically separated in where they
Yeah.
live from other people who think and believe differently from them. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the average ordinary person can do to mitigate that polarization in their own lives?
Good question. Mitigating polarization, it's so hard because even I found myself having to keep myself from being more polarized in the past year, even because as life gets harder, you want more comfort where you can have it. And so that a lot of that comfort comes around being around people that are similar to you. Um, and so but that's again, that's a human natural thing to want to be around someone or groups that align with what you align with. And when you do that, when you have that, that tribalist mentality of gathering yourself and others around that all share the same ideals, the polarization is bound to happen because you're in an echo chamber with other people that are saying the same things you're saying, and it's only going to harden you against anything that might oppose that. To combat that in this current time, I don't know. The way that I combat it is just I focus on the things that I'm passionate about and the things that I love and the things I love doing. And then I engage in that and I allow myself to engage with people who also engage in that. And again, it's finding connections on things other than the political realm because honestly, I don't have an answer on how, given the current state of everything right now, I don't have an answer on how to keep divisiveness down other than engaging people on a different platform. And then again, taking away that expectation of them being in the same realm as you, or being on the same level as you, giving you what you want from them, and just engaging with them where you can in a happy way or in a good way, or at least in a positive way. A lot of my guys are shooters.
Mm.
That's something we all engage in. And some of them aren't very conservative. Some of them just enjoy the mechanics of firearms and the sport of shooting. And that's what we engage on. And we give each other all kinds of grief about our political stuff and our differences, uh, because this one thing that connects us is all we really need. I don't need them to agree with me. I don't care if they agree with me, and I don't want them to agree with me. Be yourself, do your thing. But here where we connect, I'm okay with engaging in that. Yeah, again, it comes down to just finding that joy in life. And I think a lot of people are so focused on the bad things that are happening in the world and the negative things, or the things that they perceive to be negative in the world, and focusing on that as opposed to focusing on the things that bring them joy, focusing on the things that are positive in their lives. And I get it, it's hard to focus on that when there are real serious issues in the world. But if we're talking about moving forward and moving forward with each other in some kind of way, we're just going to have to accept that the guy next to me might have voted for Trump, or the woman next to me might, absolutely hate Trump, and just be okay with that. Like, okay, yeah, I understand you voted for the person I didn't vote for. All right, where can we connect that? Oh, you like to cook? I love to cook. And it sounds like kindergarten level stuff, but we might have to go back to kindergarten level stuff at this point to connect as humans. Because one thing I've noticed is we have seemingly forgot how to connect.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned kindergarten. It reminds me of a bestseller from a little while back that all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten.
I
Yeah.
haven't read that, but I've heard of it. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, get back to basics, get back to kindergarten, find
mm-hmm.
ways to connect, find the points of connection that are
Yeah.
there. Well, I would love to continue talking with you and asking you so many more questions, but I'm going to call it for now.
All right.
Um, and it's been such a delight to talk with you, as always.
Likewise. Likewise. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Miles. Thanks for being here. And for everyone listening, thank you. If you would like to get to know more about Braver Angels, please go to our website, braverangels.org. And for events and activities more locally, please go to braverangels.org/Oregon. Music for this episode is Hello, I Love You, written by Ben Karen and Leo Gallo, and performed by Ben Karen, Fadine Keelty, Ray Cole, Nathan Heldman, Oscar Bugarin, and Mary Keating. Watch this and other songs by Ben Karen on youtube.com/Ben Karen Creates. That's BenCaronCreates. Thanks to Ben and team for allowing us to use this song.
About how we created before we ever know if someone's friend or foe. Our hearts open or closed, we let them in or let them go. I choose how I perceive, I choose how this will be. I choose to love you, and with every breath I use these words to say, you know I love you.